Hello and welcome everybody in this class. So today we will discuss human eye and colorful world, which is chapter of class 10, and this is our lecture number 1. So let's begin this class without wasting much of our time. So let's move on to this slide. Here we will discuss the human eye. Okay, we all know that the images which we see, why we are able to see those images, because these images are formed in our eye. Okay, and our mind senses those images. Okay, so how these images are formed, what is the mechanism behind it, all these things we will have to discuss in this lecture. So guys, here we will discuss about human eye. So we will discuss the parts of human eye, how it is, you know, formed, and what are its components, what is the work of different parts of human eye. All these things we need to discuss. So before that, let's read the definition of human eye. So it is a natural optical device that human beings employ to observe objects. So what is an human eye? It is basically a natural optical device. It is a natural optical device that human beings have to observe objects. This is a very basic thing which we all know. Now, it is similar to a camera in that it contains a lens and a screen system. So basically, just like a camera, we have a lens. Okay, in light there is also a lens. We will discuss later that how it is, by which part it is made up of, and how it works. All these things we will discuss when we talk about this lens. Okay, now there is a screen as well, or you can say there is a screen like thing as well, and that is we call retina. Here the image is formed. So I will talk about this retina when this topic comes, but for now on, you just need to understand that a human eye is also like a camera where there is a lens and a screen system. Okay, guys, I hope this thing might have been clear to you. Now, let's move ahead to the next slide. So, here in this slide, a structure of a human eye is given. So this is basically what a structure of an human eye. So these are the components: retina, okay, optical nerve, ciliary body, or you can say ciliary muscles, iris, okay, this is lens, this is a lens, this is a pupil, okay, this is pupil, this opening, and this is a cornea. And there is other thing as well, this is aqueous humor, okay, aqueous humor. This is a, liquid which has water like consistency. Okay guys, I hope these things might have been clear to you. Now guys, let's talk about one by one the different parts of this eye. Okay guys, so here we are. So first of all we will discuss about retina. So the picture which is created on a light sensitive screen within the eye, it is made up of rods and cones. So basically the picture which will be formed in our eye is formed on the retina. So it is like a screen. Okay, when we first studied this lecture, then I told you that it is like a camera or eye like a camera where there is a lens and there is a screen. So the screen can be referred as retina. This retina here works as a screen. Okay guys, so the picture is formed in this retina. Now guys, This retina is made up of two types of cells. First one is rods. Okay, this let me write the correct spelling. Okay, it is made up of rods and cones. Now what is the work of this rods and cone? So this rod basically sends the intensity. Intensity. How intensive a light is. Okay, and the other type of cells are cone cells. And basically the cone cell sends the color. It senses the color. Now what happens? We human have cones and rods in sufficient amount. Okay, so we can, let's suppose, let me give you an example that we can study in a dim light where light is not that much incentive. Then also we can study. We can study in the tube light as well, in bulb as well. But the birds can't do that because they don't have these rod cells. Okay, so because of the lack of rod cells, the birds and some other animals cannot do that. But we can do it because we have enough rod cells. And guys, we also have color sensitive cell which is cone cells, so we can also sense the colors. I hope the work of retina is clear to you. Now let's talk about the work of cornea. Let's talk about the work of cornea. So you can say this cornea works as a protective layer. This cornea works as a protective layer. Let me write it here for you. Cornea, you can call it a protective layer, and it also refract most of the light. So most of the light which reaches to this lens is already refracted through this cornea. Okay, so this is a very important work of cornea. So you can say the eye path is protected by a thin membrane. It functions as a lens refracting light that enters the eye. Okay, so 2 points is to be remember in this case, that it is it protects our eyes. Okay, because if light directly touches this lens, then you can say that a part of the eyes can be damaged. So that's why it works as a protective layer. And the second point you have to remember, that the cornea refracts lights before it reaches to the lens. Okay, so it also works, it also refracts lights. I hope guys these things clear to you. Now guys, after understanding the work of these two important components of eye, let's move on to the next slide and let's talk about this aqueous humor. Okay, so what is this aqueous humor? So let me tell you where is this. So this is aqueous humor. This is aqueous humor. So what is the work of a aqueous humor? This is like a fluid. This is like a fluid which has water like consistency. Water like consistency. Now guys, what does it do? It basically maintains the pressure. It basically maintains the pressure in the eye. Okay, so this is the main work of this aqueous humor, to balance the pressure. It is the fluid. Let's read this definition. It is the fluid that fills the gap between the cornea and the eye lens. So basically what does it do? It maintains the pressure. Now let's talk about eye lens. This is a very important part of our eye. Okay, you have to be very careful while learning this, because this is very important. So what is the work of a lens? So the work of a lens is to refract light and forms the image. So this is also the work of the eye lens. What will it do? It will simply refract light and it will create, or you can say it will form its image on the retina. And you have to remember this point, that most of the light is already refracted by the cornea. It is already refracted by the cornea, and the remaining light will be refracted through the convex lens inside our eyes, and it will make its image on the retina. So the same thing is written here. It is a convex lens constructed of a translucent jelly-like substance. And how it is made up of? It is made up of a jelly-like substance, and its curvature may be changed using ciliary muscles. So basically, guys, what happens? This is your light. Sorry, this is your lens. Okay. Now you have to see the objects near you, and you also have to see the objects far from you. Okay, both the objects are to be seen. So what happens? The focus of this lens is to be changed to see the different objects. Okay, because if the focus is same, then it will only be able to see the objects near it, or you can say far from it. Okay, so that's why what do we have to do to change the focus of the, of this lens? We have to change its curvature, and this curvature of this lens is changed by the help of the ciliary body or ciliary muscles. So ciliary muscles are like this. Okay, are like this, and it helps changing its curvature. Now how does it change it? So basically, whenever whenever the ciliary muscles relax, then it become thick. Okay, and its focus changes. And whenever it tights, whenever it gets tightened, then what will happen? You can say the curvature of this lens will be thin. It will become thinner like this. So in both the cases, the focus is being changed. So I hope, guys, these things might have been clear to you, how the focus is being changed. Okay, guys, so after understanding this, let's move on to the next slide, and let's talk about the other important parts of this eye lens. Okay, guys, so here we are. Here we will discuss pupil. We will be discussing pupil. It is very, very important, concept to understand this pupil. So basically, this pupil is like a hole. It is like what? It is like a hole, and before this pupil, there is an iris. Okay, so these works both. These works combinedly. Now, let me give you a basic idea how does it work, so you can simply understand that. Let's suppose this is your home. This is your home, and this is the entrance of your home. This is the entrance of your home, and there is a gate. There is a gate on the entrance of your home. Okay, now the same thing happens with eyes as well. Let's suppose this is your eye, and this is the entrance of your eye, and this entrance you can call it pupil. Okay, from where the light enters, and this iris works as a gate. This iris works as a gate. If it is closed, then no light will be able to enter in your eyes, but if it is open, the light can enter inside your eye. Okay, so these are the works of pupil and the lens. Now, guys, let's talk about pupil. It is a hole in the center of the iris that allows light to enter the eye. It seems black because light that falls on it enters the eye and doesn't return. Okay, so basically, guys, in the previous chapter, light, we saw that why we able to see the things, because the reflected light comes to our eyes. Okay, but what happens? The light which enters in our eye never comes back. Okay, it doesn't come back. So because it doesn't come back, so we are unable, you can say, the whole will be appearing to be black to us. Okay, this whole will be appearing to be black to us. So I hope guys you have understood the working of pupil and this iris. Okay, although the iris is to be discussed later, but I have now just gave you a basic idea about the working of iris. Now let's talk about the ciliary muscles. So what is the working of ciliary muscle? Ciliary muscle basically responsible for the changing in the curvature of the lens. So these muscles are linked to the eye lens and may change the curvature of the eye lens, resulting in a variance in focal length. So I told you here in this slide, then the ciliary muscles hold this lens, and this can also change its curvature. So these are the work of ciliary muscles. I hope guys you got this point. Now after understanding these points, let's move ahead and let's talk about the other important parts of the eye. Yet we have seen the work of retina, we also have seen work of cornea, we also have seen the work of pupil and the work of lens, ciliary muscles and the optical nerve. So let's move on. Okay guys, so here we are. Here we will discuss about iris. So what is the work of iris? We know guys that iris works as a gate. It is like a door. Okay, it is like a door. Okay, so if it is open, then light will be able to enter in the pupil and it can refract from the lens. But if it is shut, then no light will be able to enter in the pupil. So you might have heard that to confirm whether a person die or not, what do? We throw the focus of a torch on its eye. Okay, what do? We basically focus the light of the torch into the eyes of that person. So if these muscles are working, okay, or you can say if the iris is opening, if there is a movement in the iris, then we will say that his brain is still active and he is not died, he is alive. But if the iris is not moving, if there is no movement in the iris, then we will say the brain stops working and he is died. Okay guys, I hope you got this point and you understand this completely. So basically what we were discussing about iris, and iris works like a door. It controls the amount of the light which is entering in the pupil. Now guys, let's talk about the optical nerve. So we already discussed this optical nerve. This is optical nerve, and what does it do? It converts light energy, or you can say it converts light signals to the electrical signal. Electrical signal. And then these signals are sent to the brain, and our brain can read these signals and it senses the images. I hope guys you got this point. And one more thing is to be remembered, then the image which forms in the retina are inverted images, but a mind read these images erect. Okay, so this is also a very important point. Now guys, let's move on to the next slide. Okay guys, so here we are. Here we will discuss about how pupil works. So as an example, you have probably noticed that when you walk out the theater after viewing a movie in direct sunshine, your eyes shut, and when you enter the hall from the bright light, you won't be able to see for a while, but after a while, you will be able to see. So basically, let me tell you what this para is talking about. So what happens, guys? I told you that this iris controls the amount of light entering in the pupil. So let's suppose if you are sitting in a cinema hall and you are watching a movie. So we know that there is all dark around the cinema hall. Okay. So when you go out after viewing a movie, after watching a movie, then what happens when you go in the sunshine? Then suddenly high amount of light starts entering in your eyes. So what happens? This iris will, will shut. This iris will cover this pupil. It will, you can say, it will shut down, and for a while you won't be able to see the objects because light cannot enter in your eyes. This iris is not letting the light enter in your eyes. So that's why for a while you won't be able to see the objects. But guys, let's talk about the other case where you are already in sunshine. You are already in sunshine. So because lots of light is coming to your eyes, so this opening, this iris is not that much open. Okay. But let's suppose you are entered in the dark room. Now you are entered in the dark room. So your iris is short. Okay. It is not that much open. So for a while you won't be able to see the things in dark room because the path where the light enters is very short. Okay. But what happens when you enter in a dark room? So after a while this iris will open more and the more light will be able to come inside your eye. Okay. And you start to see the things clearly. So this is the reason when you enter from a dark room to sunshine, so for a while you can't see some things, and when you go in a dark room from a room where there is lots of sunshine, then for a while there also you won't be able to see the things because of the because of the opening of the iris. So here iris is very very important, and these type of questions are asked very frequently in the examinations. So I hope guys these things also clear to you. Now let's move ahead and let's talk about the other things. Okay guys, so in this case the pupil of an eye offers a variable aperture, the size of which is regulated by the iris. So basically the same thing which I explained in the previous slide is written here. So in bright light the iris closes the pupil, allowing less light to reach the eye. And when the light is low, iris dilates the pupil, allowing more light to enter the eye. When the iris relaxes, the pupil entirely opens. So what happens? Okay, it is talking about that in bright light what happens? Lots of lights comes to our eyes. So iris closes the path. Iris closes the pupil. Okay, so less light reaches to our eyes. Otherwise, we can understand and we can imagine that if there is no iris, then what happens? High amount of light will enter into our eyes and it can also damage our eyes. So basically here the works of iris, or you can say the working of iris, is very very important. So when the light is low, and let's suppose where the light is low, then iris, what did it do? What does it do? It basically allowing more light to enter so that we can see the things clearly. I hope guys you understand these things. Now let's move ahead. Okay, persistence of vision. Let's talk about what is the persistence of vision. So persistence of vision, it is the amount of time that an object's feeling remains in the eye. It is around 1 upon 16th of second. So basically, let's suppose if you see an object, okay, so how much time, you can say for how long you can feel that object in your eyes, it is persistence of vision. And it is basically, if we talk about a normal human being, then it is 1 upon 16th of a second. 1 upon 16 of a second. Okay, it is a 16th part of a second, you can say. So for this time we can feel the object. Now let's move ahead and let's talk about the power of accommodation. It is very very important, guys. The questions is to be asked in power of accommodation. So let's discuss this power of accommodation. As we all know that in the previous slide I told you that the focal length of our lens is to be adjusted, because we have to see both the objects which are far from us and which are near to us. Okay, both the objects is to be seen. So to see those objects, the power of accommodation is very very important. So what is the power of accommodation? Basically, the power of accommodation is nothing but the capacity of a eye lens to alter its focal length. Okay, to alter it, what? Alter its focal length. Now we know that let's suppose this is your lens, and this lens is connected with this ciliary muscles. Okay, these are the ciliary muscles. Okay, and this is a eye lens. So the capacity to adjust this lens focal length is known as the power of accommodation. Okay, it can be, it can be thicker. It can be thicker if these lens relax it. If these ciliary muscle relaxes, that it can be thicker. But if these are tightened, these gets tightened, then it will get thinner. Okay, so this is how the focal length of a eye lens adjusted. So the capacity of the eye lens to alter its focal length as distance change is referred to as power of accommodation. So I hope guys you understood the power of accommodation. Now let's move ahead. So here guys we will talk about color blindness. So a person with faulty cone cells is unable to discriminate between distinct color. Okay, it is very important. Many times question is asked here directly that unable to discriminate between distinct color, a person with faulty cone cells, and that is, you know, cannot differentiate between distinct colors. So we call it the disease, and the name of the disease is color blindness. So the color blindness is the name of the given to this problem. Now guys, what happens? Let's talk about why does it happen. So we know that retina is formed by two type of cell. First one is rod cells and the second one is cone cells. Okay, so when I told you this, then I also told you that these rod cells are responsible to sense the intensity, and these cone cells are responsible to sense the color. Okay, so that's why guys, what happens when there is a defect in color, or you can say a person with faulty corn cells can have this disease. Okay, because if your corn cells are faulty, then you will not be able to differentiate between colors. So what will happen? This disease will be a name. This disease will have a name, and that is color blindness. I hope guys you understand this point. Now let's move ahead to the next part. Let's move ahead to the next slide. So here we are. Here we will see some examples. Okay guys. So the examples, first example is the capacity of the eye lens to alter its focal length as distances change is referred to as what? So basically, we know in the previous slides, then the capacity of the eye lens to alter its focal length as distance change is refers to the power of accommodation. Power of accommodation. Okay, so it is very important. This question is very important, that what is power of accommodation, because you will say that we have to see the objects near to us and we also have to see the objects far from us. So we need the adjustment in our focal length. So to adjust or to alter its focal length of a lens of an eye lens is known as the power of accommodation, or you can say the capacity of the eye lens to alter its focal length as distance change is refers to power of accommodation. Okay guys, now let's talk about the second question, and that is, what is the work of iris? So here we want to know what is the work of iris. So we know that the iris controls the amount of light entering in the eye, or you can say in the pupil. Okay, so this is the work of iris. So we also saw lots of examples on this iris, and we know this is a very important part, and this basically controls the amount of light enters in our eye. Now guys, let's talk about the third question, and that is, when you walk out of the theater after viewing a movie in direct sunshine, your eyes shut. Why? So what happens? The answer of this question is that when we walk out of the theater after a movie, so in theater there is dark all around us. So the size of the pupil is very, you can say, large. Okay, the size of the pupil is very large, because we have to, because iris wants that lots of light enters in our pupil so that we can see clearly the objects even in the dark. But what happens when we suddenly go out of the, when we suddenly go outside, or you can say when we suddenly go in sunshine, then lots of light starts coming in our eyes very frequently. Okay, or large amount of light comes in our eyes suddenly. So what happens, our iris is closed for a while. Okay, and because our iris is closed, so no light will be able to enter in our eye, and that's why we cannot see anything around us. So for some time the iris is shut. So this is the reason of this question number third. So I hope guys these things might have been clear to you. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. Okay guys, so here I am ending this lecture. I hope everything has been understood by you. So thank you so much. See you in later parts. Bye bye.